The rain had just stopped when Daniel parked his old pickup truck outside the massive glass building of Aurelius Motors, one of the most elite luxury car companies in the world. His truck looked painfully out of place beside rows of polished sports cars worth millions. Daniel stepped out, tightening the worn jacket around his shoulders while glancing at the photo taped to his dashboard, a smiling little girl missing her front tooth. "Wish me luck, Emma," he whispered. Inside the service center, chaos had taken over. 47 luxury cars sat idle, their hoods open like wounded giants. A mysterious system failure had crippled them after a software update, leaving the company embarrassed and losing millions every day. Engineers had tried everything for 2 weeks, but nothing worked. When Daniel walked in and introduced himself as an independent mechanic who believed he could help, the room filled with quiet laughter. One engineer whispered, "A guy with a toolbox thinks he can solve what our entire team couldn't." But Daniel didn't react. Years of being underestimated had taught him patience. Ever since his wife passed away 3 years ago, he had been raising Emma alone while running a tiny neighborhood repair shop. Nights were long, bills were heavy, and sometimes dinner was just instant noodles. Yet Emma always believed in him. "Daddy can fix anything," she would proudly tell her teachers. That belief was Daniel's fuel. The manager finally shrugged and gave him permission to look at the cars, mostly out of desperation. Daniel walked slowly down the long row of vehicles, touching each hood thoughtfully like a doctor checking patients. His mind raced through possibilities: electrical failures, corrupted software, sensor conflicts. The other mechanics watched with folded arms, waiting for him to fail. Hours passed. Daniel opened control panels, ran diagnostic tools, scribbled notes, and studied every tiny detail. Most people in the room gave up watching and returned to their desks. But Daniel kept working, quietly, methodically. By midnight, the entire building was almost empty. Only the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the ticking of cooling engines filled the garage. Daniel rubbed his tired eyes and thought of Emma asleep at home. He couldn't afford to fail. Not now. Suddenly something caught his attention, a small but unusual pattern in the car systems. A hidden conflict between the update software and the vehicle communication modules. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was there. Daniel's heart began to race. If his theory was right, this wasn't 47 different problems. It was one single mistake repeating itself 47 times. He grabbed his tools and got to work. One car. Then another. Then another. And slowly, deep in the quiet night, engines began to come back to life. By sunrise, the Aurelius Motors Service Center looked completely different from the night before. The once silent garage now echoed with the powerful growl of engines warming up one by one. Mechanics arriving for the morning shift stopped in their tracks as they saw Daniel moving from car to car, tightening the final bolts and running diagnostics with calm focus. On the digital dashboard above the service floor, something unbelievable was happening. Red warning lights were turning green. One technician rushed to check the system logs and stared in disbelief. "Impossible! These cars are actually working!" Words spread quickly across the building. Engineers gathered around the garage floor, whispering in confusion as they counted the vehicles Daniel had already repaired. 10, 15, 20, the number kept climbing. The same man they had laughed at just hours ago was calmly bringing every luxury machine back to life. Daniel barely noticed the growing crowd. His hands were stained with oil, his shirt damp with sweat, but his mind stayed locked on the work. Each repaired car meant more than a paycheck. It meant school supplies for Emma, a warmer home, maybe even the birthday bicycle she had been dreaming about. Finally, after hours of relentless work, Daniel closed the hood of the 47th car and wiped his hands on a rag. The garage had fallen completely silent again, but this time from shock. At that moment, a sleek black elevator opened at the far end of the room. Out stepped Alexander Ward, the CEO of Aurelius Motors. Known for being one of the most demanding leaders in the automotive world, he rarely visited the service floor. Yet today he had come personally after hearing the unbelievable news. He slowly walked through the line of perfectly functioning cars, each engine humming smoothly. Then he stopped in front of Daniel. "You fixed all 47?" the CEO asked. Daniel nodded quietly. The engineers waited nervously, expecting criticism or interrogation. Instead, Alexander Ward smiled. Something employees almost never saw. "Our best engineers spent 2 weeks trying to solve this," he said. "You solved it in one night." Daniel shrugged slightly. "It was the update communication loop. Once I rewrote the sync code, the system reset itself." The CEO stared at him for a moment, impressed not only by the answer but by the humility behind it. Then he did something no one expected. He extended his hand and said, "Mr. Daniel Carter, Aurelius Motors would be honored to have you lead our entire diagnostic division." Gasps spread across the garage. Daniel blinked in disbelief. Just yesterday he was a struggling mechanic trying to pay bills, and now the CEO of a luxury car empire was offering him the opportunity of a lifetime. But Daniel's first thought wasn't the salary or the prestige. It was Emma. Her tiny voice saying, "Daddy can fix anything." And for the first time in years, Daniel felt that maybe, just maybe, their future was finally about to change.